Okay, we're just getting the sound levels sorted out and the simulator levels and my view of the live stream so I can see comments along the way. So today we're going to be taking off from Buchanan Field and flying down to across the San Francisco Bay and then down to the border with Mexico. We're going to go past Hollywood along the way and do tons of touch and goes. And we're going to learn a little bit about flying the King Air 350i as we go, so I'll be learning as I go with it. Okay, let's get things sorted out. So I want YouTube on my second screen and I want my live stream. And we're looking good. Alistair Murray has already commented on the live stream saying, I knew you'd be back for more live streams. Of course I am. It's good fun. Hopefully I've got the sound sorted out tonight so I'm not going to shout over the screaming engines of a Twin Otter. I think the King Air is significantly quieter. Okay, how are we doing in the aircraft? First things first, we're going to need to go and put a significant amount of fuel in the aeroplane, so I'm going to go and fill it up to 75%, which should be good for a very long way. I'm just going to go and mute myself on the second screen. I haven't even chosen a server yet. That just shows how prepared I am. I'm on West USA, which makes sense because we're flying in America. So okay, let's get sorted out then. Oh dear, I really am not prepared tonight at all. What do we need to do first in this aircraft? We need to arm the ignition, turn on the master power for everything. We need to turn on the... Oh crikey, my head is completely gone. Battery would be good, wouldn't it? And generators. Avionics is already on. Don't need anti-ice, it's lovely and warm outside. Ignition. Engine start. It would be a good idea if I went and checked the controls before I did that and make sure I've got the correct mappings for the B350, which I haven't. I've got the Twin Otter mappings. So you're seeing every mistake happen one after another, which is really great. I wish this was a list and not something you had to flick through. King Air, there we go. Apply and save, go back, resume. So let's see. So that gives me the engines. So this is the prop condition. So then this is going to be the fuel. So I have fuel to the engines. The starters are on. It's complaining about the pitot heat, so down here. Starters running, ignition's happening. Engines are slowly coming up, which you can see over here. So Alistair's commented, you learn better that way. Yes, you do. So the basics you have to think about to get an airplane fired up: you need power to the systems, which obviously the batteries provide. You need the avionics switched on. You need the fuel being supplied to the engines. Bizarrely, in this version of the aircraft, there doesn't seem to be much in the way of fuel pump switches going on. I don't know if that's common of this particular aircraft, or there's nothing overhead. There's transfer, there's a standby pump. Maybe it's automatic. Or maybe I'm just missing something. Okay, So how are we doing? It's still complaining about ignition. Let's rev them up. So it'll be complaining about ignition because I've already got the engine started now, so I don't need to keep the ignition on. There we go. Okay. Lights. We need to sort some lights out. Beacon, strobe, recognition, nav. Now people can see us in the sky. I'll go and make sure I'm running transmitter as well. Oh, I need to get rid of photoscape, which I prepared the live stream picture with. We will connect transmitter, so if anybody is running a little nav map, you will be able to see me on the map. And we will right click, show information for Buchanan Field we are departing from. So Kilo Charlie Charlie Romeo is the ICAO code for Buchanan Field. And if we have a look on the ground, there's our aircraft. I have set the time for just after 7:30 in the morning, so we get some nice early light to fly through. I don't think there's any wind. No, there's no wind, so we get our choice of runway. So let's go and have a look at the airfield layout. We are parked down here, so we'll go out of 01 right, just purely because it's close. And then we'll begin our turn. So, off the wheel brakes. Let's push the... We don't even have to push the throttles forwards. At idle, it has positive pitch on the propellers. There's something we have to be mindful of in the air, actually, that we do need to manipulate the pitch to control the acceleration of the aircraft, because it is fast. So, you know, for descent, to be able to slow down, we are going to need to use the pitch. So this is runway 1 right, or 01 right if you were in Europe, but we're not. So, let's go and sit over that. Whoa! See what I mean about the pitch? We have to be careful. It's wanting to go raring off down the runway. So just before we get going, to control that, and to keep some semblance of control over the aircraft. You can see at the moment, got engine condition there, we've got the propeller here. So we're going to... That's interesting, there's a bug in the simulator. You can see that I'm pressing one button to pull both pitches back, and it's pulling one back over the other. So we're going to go for 3/4 pitch. Okay. Move the mouse out of the way. Now we're accelerating 40 knots, 50 knots, 60 knots, 70 knots, 80, 90, through the truck and rotate. We are not gaining airspeed very quickly. I wonder why. So I put the props to full forward pitch. Okay, so our immediate turn is going to be left to go out over the San Francisco Bay. And visit San Francisco, seeing as we're here. Pull the throttles back to 3/4. We don't need to thrash it. So I can't actually hear myself, obviously, over the sound of the engine. If anybody in the chat room can tell me if they can hear me okay, that would be really useful. Or if I need to turn the simulator down at all, in respect to me. It's a little bit misty in San Francisco this morning. So let's get it's interesting that we can't easily see the edge of that screen. We can use the minus and the plus signs. There we go. So we're going to want to detune that. So we're going to go and press the menu button. So we just detuned the radio, so we're not going to have any noise annoying us along the way. It's a typical foggy San Francisco morning, isn't it? Should we get a little bit of height above the clouds? So, instrument flight rules, VFR, visual flight rules in the USA. If you are travelling west, they like you to be at an even numbered thousands with 500 plus 500 feet. So, say 2,500 or 4,500 feet while going west. While going east, they want you at an even numbered thousands. So, sorry, an odd numbered. So east is odd, west is even. So yeah, if we're going east, we need to be at either 1,500 or 3,500 or 5,500 feet, for example, if we're following the rules. Just trying to trim this out a little bit. It's wanting to roll all over the place. It's better, he says, as the left wing dips alarmingly. So, does this aircraft give us an outside air temperature readout on one of the main displays? Yes, it does, 11 degrees. So yeah, it's going to be nice and warm, we don't need to worry about anything. So we're heading towards Marin County at the moment, over to the north of San Francisco. So we're just going to slowly descend back down. So we'll cut the throttle slightly and roll in towards San Francisco. So we're in the B350, the King Air. You can see the San Francisco the Golden Gate Bridge ahead of us. So it'd be a pretty poor job if we didn't go and visit that along the way, wouldn't it? So So back to fly over Treasure Island. There's Alcatraz over to our left. Okay, I appear to have lost mouse control, which is really odd. Oh no, my bad. So you can see San Francisco over to our left, hidden in the mist, and you can see the Golden Gate Bridge just ahead. So we're going to descend down and overfly the Golden Gate Bridge. Okay, we're kind of going into VFR conditions. Sorry, IFR conditions. So it's clearing up. It's okay. We could always go a couple of thousand feet up and we'll be absolutely fine. Good morning from San Francisco. We'll do a slow loop of the city. There's the entrance onto the Oakland Bay Bridge. Okay, we need to think about exiting the city now and getting on with our journey. So first stop for us is KHWD, which is Hayward Executive Airfield. So we're going to fly towards the sun. Climb a little. And we're looking good. I'm going to cross over to Oakland side of the bay. If you have a look on the map, we're on our way to Hayward Executive, which is obviously Hayward. Hayward. I'm not sure how the locals would pronounce it. So there you go. We're 1,500 feet. Remembering that travelling east, it's an odd 1,000 number plus 500 feet, so 1,500 is fine. I'm just going to go and answer the door. Back in a second. And back. This is the problem with live streaming in my world. Okay, so 1,500 feet on the way to Hayward Executive. And we remove our first spanner. Remove. Lee Rose, knock cues there. So, Hayward Executive is our next destination, flying 1,500 feet following USA VFR rules, although I'm saying that I'm climbing up to 1,600 because I'm not keeping an eye on it and I'm flying by hand. So, we are going to need to think about descending soon. And I'm hoping the visibility is going to clear somewhat, because this is no fun. We can see nothing at the moment. This is a great tour of the area, isn't it? Maybe we switch from live weather for the interests of the live stream to few clouds. That would look a lot prettier, wouldn't it? And at least you get something to see along the way. So we're just flying over the edge of Oakland, Metropolitan Oakland International Airfield. Can I bring a crate of tequila? There's Oakland Airport. It looks very quiet today, doesn't it? There's not many planes on the gates. I wonder if they're going to fix that in Flight Sim. Increase the amount of AI traffic. Because I can't believe Oakland is really that quiet at the moment. Okay, so here comes our first touch and go. So if we just look out to the side, can we see Hayward in front of us somewhere? Somewhere in the glare from the sun, there is an airfield. Aha, I think I see it.
Landing here. Landing here.
So as soon as we got within range of using the flaps on the indicated airspeed, I dropped the gear as well. And now we're good to go. We're losing speed. It's quite a big runway. I've not got any excuses for bad landings anymore because I've fixed the joystick. I hope there's no scenery bugs in the tarmac. You can see layers appearing and disappearing as we approach. It's the widest runway ever. What are they expecting to land here? And there's a hill in the middle of the runway as well. Gear up. And we continue on with the next leg of the journey. So back up to 1500 feet. And we continue onwards. So let's go and have a play with the autopilot in the King Air. So we should be able to press the middle of the heading bug, go to heading mode, which is highlighted here. So it works pretty much the same as all the other autopilots. We can do altitude hold, and then we can turn the master switch on for the autopilot. So we'll press altitude hold again with the height we're at, and it's not going to do it, so okay, we'll adjust it ourselves. 1500 feet, vertical speed, up. It's going to do it itself, it's fine. Okay, so we're in heading and altitude hold mode at 1500. It's got this bit of a shimmy going on. Let's see if we can get rid of that. Have we got yaw dampers? Yep. Autopilot and yaw damper is still doing it. Can you see that happening? I think that's a bug in the sim. So you can see we are rapidly zooming across the sky now. So let's go and have a look at the map now we're on autopilot. So we're just coming down the south side of the bay, 24 miles down to Reed Hill View of Santa Clara County. The runway is 3,000 feet long. It's not going to take us long to get there at all, seeing as we're doing nearly 250 knots. So the King Air is a bit of a beast for flying in these sort of conditions. We're right up against the limit, the speed limit for flying below 10,000 feet. So we are absolutely zooming along. So if anybody wants to join in, I'm on the West USA server. Just flying to Reed Hill View and basically heading south towards LA and then on down towards Mexico, doing short hops all the way, touch and goes. So next is Reed Hill View, Santa Clara. If we press the nav button, of course, we will acquire the route. So the aircraft will turn left, hopefully intercept the line, and then turn right. Let's see what happens. Just keep an eye on those hills. Is it going to turn right? Or is it on the wrong leg on its? I think it's on the wrong leg on the flight plan looking at this. Okay, not a problem. We go back to heading mode. Will it turn out in time, or am I going to have to jump in and help it? Okay, I'm going to take over. So autopilot is off. Manual control. I need to go and make sure that the autopilot, just looking at this down here, yeah, it's on the wrong leg. Which is interesting. That it's done that. So let's pull the throttle back because we're going to descend back down to 1500 slowly. So while we fly along, just getting it stable enough so I can go and press the menu button. Active flight plan. There we go. So that's how it should have been configured all along. So we just go and press menu to get rid of the menu. And again, to get rid of that. Oh no, that's just pulling that back. Okay, so then we can press full. There's a bug in this. I don't know if anybody else has noticed it. There we go. Oh, go away, you idiot man. There we go. So, we are going far too fast at the moment, so I'm just bleeding some speed off. So we're going to fly a circle over Hayward and then come in again. One of the problems of the King Air is it's very slippery. But this does mean you get to do some sightseeing. It's not really stalling, it's just too high an angle of attack going around this corner. So we can look out the window. Where's the runways? Gear down, flaps down. Isn't it amazing how there's always runway buildings at the ends of runways? This isn't going to go down, is it? We just touched. That was a little bit unconventional, wasn't it? Okay. On to the next one. Go and delete some more spam. So now this is working correctly on the autopilot, we should just be able to go. We've got altitude set to 1500 already. So let's just trim the ailerons, sorry, the elevators. Autopilot on, nav mode on. You're supposed to be in nav mode, you silly thing. Oh, it's the CDI's on the wrong mode. I didn't notice earlier. There we go. And again, it's done this problem with this going to the wrong mode completely. We can't get back. Oh, we can. We can just click in some free space. Okay, that closes the panel. There's no documentation really for how this works, and it's a completely different version of the system than any of the other aircraft. It's okay, we're back to 1500 feet. We're going to have to keep an eye out for hills, obviously, as you can see. We're going to turn left again in a moment anyway. We're just coming back to our line of our flight path. So just to get an idea along the way, we can pull up the elevation, plot in a little nav map, and we can put in 1500 to see how far short. Yeah, so we are going to need to climb over the next little way. Okay, so autopilot is off, and we are going to go skimming through the hills. So I'm going to come off the throttle a little bit because we're right up against the limiter on the airspeed. Computer voice is going to get quite annoying, shouting 500 every 30 seconds, isn't it? So maybe we'll climb a little bit so he's got nothing to complain about. Okay, so the next airfield on our plan, if we go and have a look at the map, is Watsonville Municipal. Okay. So, looking at the wind, we could come in either runway, really. We're just going to do visual approach, though, so to keep the flight plan going the right direction, I'm going to crab left across the track. And we will come in runway 20 at Watsonville. So we'll just dump the throttle over the top of this hill. Rolling down this valley. Keep an eye on the indicated airspeed though, because we're coming down at quite some speed. So we're looking to lose speed again. Should be able to see the runway. It's directly in front of us. Can you see it? It's just over there. So gear down. Flaps down. Trim the aircraft. And we can just gently descend down and have a bit more of a planned approach this time. So this is Watsonville Municipal. I'm not going to attempt to land from outside because I just can't do it. Gear up. And we're away. Flaps up. And we accelerate. So again we can press the autopilot button and it continues in GPS mode and climbs for 1500 feet again. And gets us back on track. It's cheating, isn't it? But it does mean we can do some sightseeing while the autopilot's on. So we're just leaving behind Watsonville Municipal. I can't say that today for some reason. So we're about to fly over a Moss Landing State Wildlife Area, which is just this inlet here. There's a campground apparently. Wonder what the live weather is looking like versus the few clouds that we switched on. Is it still awful? Let's have a look. I think it's actually better than we had. I wonder what the Borg Cube building is. Is it on the map? Doesn't say, does it? It's just here. Sea Goddess whale watching. I guess it must be that. Should we have a play with the drone camera while we're right here on autopilot? Amuse ourselves for a few minutes, get a nice shot. Actually, we want it on the landscape side, don't we? The usual shot you can do to make good screenshots is get the plane up in one corner of the screen, so fly the drone around. We've just been buzzed. So if we go correct the telephoto effect that it often puts on it, and we can rotate the screen slightly, and there you go. So then you get to see the landscape at the same time. Anyway, we were buzzed, weren't we? So where are they? Somebody came in at extreme high speed, went head on with us. Of course they'll have a job catching us now, because this thing is incredibly fast in a straight line. That we're on the speed limiter. So I'm going to cut back, because we are getting close to the runway anyway that we're heading for. So we got wind, so we probably want to go for runway 10. So what we'll do is go heading mode, and we'll change our heading to the right, say 30 degrees ish. And go to heading mode, and we cut the throttle right back and lose some of this speed. And then we'll come off autopilot to turn in towards the runway. So you can see the speed bleeding off, and we can see the runway out over there. Okay, so you can see there on the map what's going on. We're just coming into Monterey Regional. And we're going to avoid the hills, hopefully. I remember many years ago, if you flew any of the simulators and tried to fly into Monterey, the air traffic control would often direct you straight into the hills. It wasn't very good at it. Okay, so there's the runways. Keep an eye on our speed. So we can put flaps down now. So first stage of flaps. Let's come off the autopilot and start rolling in. So gear down. It's a bit of a problem in this aeroplane sometimes to see if you're banked over too far, to see the airfield in front of you. So second stage of flaps, which will improve or increase the drag enormously. So let's sit up so we can see what we're doing. So this is Monterey Regional. Who's that in front of us?
500.
Gear up. Flaps up. God, look how heavy this thing is. That's impressive, isn't it? Doesn't like going that slow without the flaps at all. Just shows how much lift they generate. Okay, let's get this thing back on the road. So, have we got the next leg? Yes, we're going to fly there by hand because it's so close. So we're going to do a dog leg, and we're going for Salinas Municipal now. But we're going to go in runway 08 at Salinas. So we're flying a dogleg of sorts. We're back up to 1500 feet, so we level out. And we should see Salinas over here. If we look across the valley, probably can't, it's not quite rendering it yet. Getting a bit high, so we come back off the power, trim the nose down, delete another spammer from the live stream. So I think we can see it out there. Okay, so we're approaching Salinas. ICAO code for Salinas, KSNS, Kilo Sierra November Sierra. So we're going to come back off the power. And we're hoping the speed is going to come off fast enough. The reason you're hearing the enunciation for landing gear is because I'm pulling the throttles back and pulling them just a bit too far. So if we pull the nose up, we're going to have to use a few tricks here to get in. So there we go, flaps are down. We can now pull the throttles back without the enunciation because we've got the gear down and the flaps. And we're losing speed quickly, which is great. The crazy thing with the engines on this thing though is even the smallest amount of throttle in it will accelerate with the flaps. So I'm interested in knowing who this is flying with me. I've just turned on the aircraft on the map so I can see who it is. I'll have a look in a moment. Okay. Full speed down the runway. Rotate at 110 knots. One bit up. Gear up. Go a bit faster this time before we raise the flaps, eh? That's a bit better. Trim the elevators and we're on our way again. So let's press the nav button and then turn the autopilot back on. So it's going to climb back to 1500 feet for us and re-establish the course, and we can do some sightseeing along the way. So we are just leaving behind Salinas Municipal. Should we see what the daylight's like? We need to go and press this and put real time on. So yeah, that hasn't made a lot of difference now. Now the sun's come up. So we're heading down towards Clark Ranch 3CA9. It's a 2,300 foot runway. It's paved at the Ventana Vineyard. 23 miles to go. Slightly less now actually, but there you go. So it should align with our flight plan. So we should fly straight in. There is next to no wind, so we can really pick and choose how we get to these various airfields along the way. Should we have another look at the drone camera? Yeah, it's quite a good angle. So, where are we flying over right now? Gonzales. The small town below us is Gonzales. We have a running track. We're leaving the San Francisco Bay well behind now. Oh, we've got another aircraft joining us. So we're about 8 miles out from Clark Ranch, so we'll start thinking about coming off the power and slowing ourselves down, because we're doing 245 knots, which is just a bit quick. So I've reduced the engine power. Coming down to 200 knots, 190 knots, 180 knots. Put a little bit of power back on for the moment. So we're about 6 miles out. So the riverbed we are flying along is the Salinas River. And the next town, Soledad. The Frank Ledesma Elementary School. Did I say it? Ledesma. Is over there on the edge of the town. It's a huge wind turbine. Water treatment plant. And that will be Lee. So we're cruising along 150 knots and we're approaching Clark Ranch, so we need to start looking out for the runway. So get back in the cockpit. Where is it? We're heading straight for it. So we should be able to see it. Am I blind? Unless it's dirt, of course. Oh, we're flying right over it now. There it is. It's a narrow strip. So this is going to be a bit more fun. Off the autopilot.
Landing gear.
Comes the landing gear. We're still too high. I'm trying to lose the speed and the height. So I'll do a kind of a pattern here and fly away from it and come back in. Lee's doing the same by the look of it. Just making himself some room to turn around and fly in. Be careful not to get too slow. To stay above 80 knots to stop ourselves from stalling. No big manoeuvres at this sort of speed. That's the runway.
500.
Mindful of the short runway. So we're going to come in slower than we normally would. Gear up, flaps up for the first position, get the airspeed back, and accelerate, and flaps up and we're away. Good evening, Jonathan, says Ting Tong John. How's it going with the twin prop? It's a learning experience. I think slowing down is the biggest issue, certainly with the King Air, because it's big and it's fast and it's aerodynamic. So it doesn't like slowing down very much. So our next stop is going to be just down the valley a little way, Mesa del Rey. Kilo Kilo India Charlie. So we've gone zoom climbed almost up to 2,000 feet. So we'll try and do this one a little bit more planned than the last one, where we just had to double back and fly a circuit back in because we completely missed the airfield. I guess, you know, if you can't see the airfield, it's always the safest thing to do is fly over, get a good look at it, turn back and come back in again. You know, we'll forget that we were too high and too fast. It's got nothing to do with it. So let's have a look at the runways at Mesa del Rey. So runway 11 we'll be going for, which is directly on our flight plan. So we need to be turning back towards our flight plan slightly. So the big question is, can we see it? We should be able to see it from here. Yep, there it is. It's a lot easier to see than the last one. So off the throttle now. Start losing some speed. Then dropping down into Mesa del Rey. Is it Mesa or Mesa? I'm never quite sure. I guess it's Mesa, because it's like Mesa Verde. Okay. Slowly bleeding speed off on approach. There's a tree on the approach, isn't there? You can see it from here. Why has nobody cut that tree down? It is fascinating how many times that happens in Flight Simulator. It's become a bit of a joke, hasn't it? So flaps down. Obviously the lift is kicked in from the flaps, but the drag is also taking the speed off. Gear down. Throttles to idle, and we glide. Avoid the tree. Get the speed back up and rotate. Gear up. And flaps up. Okay. Just trim the elevators off and then autopilot back on. It's on GPS mode. It's going to climb back to 1500. We can cut the throttles to about 80%, which will take us to 250 knots in no time at all. So now we have 16 miles on to San Ardo Airport, Charlie Alpha 88. Runway is 2,000 or 1,900 feet long. It's not very. It's 52 feet wide, so it's not very wide. But it's a cement runway, so it's going to look pale. So it may blend in with the sand. And there's not much scenery around it. It's on the bank of the Salinas River. So we'll have to be looking from a long way out, and potentially it could be quite pale. Just looking to see if there's a bend of the river. The snake's just before it, so that's a good visual cue for us. So it's somewhere out there. Side. So should we tell Lee he's got his wheels down? And his flaps down still. Maybe, yeah, that's probably a very good way of staying slow enough to stay with me. Okay, can we see the airfield yet? That's not it, is it? No. It's going to be directly in front of us because the GPS is leading us in. Is that it? I think that might be it. And it's directly after the bend. Yep. Okay.
Landing here.
So we're coming off the speed. Remembering this is a very short strip, so we want to get it down quite neatly. So left a bit, we'll start lining up. First stage of flaps. Gear down. Second stage of flaps. And the speed is really coming off now. Yeah, and there's the runway. What has this farmer got in his field?
500.
I'm more interested in having a look at this field than landing, to be honest. Okay, looks like a load of prefab buildings. Probably a CIA listening station or something we've stumbled across. And we're up. First stage of flaps back up. Gear up. Wait for the speed. And flaps raised. So we're now straight on to the next airfield, which is same distance again, so it's going to be a very quick transition between the two airfields. So we'll just switch on autopilot for the moment, which will get us back on the track. We can go and have a look around us. So there's Lee. And we're now heading along to San Miguel Airport, Kilo Tango Alpha Bravo. We can zoom in to have a look. Nacimiento is the name of the small area. Camp Roberts northbound rest area is just north of it. Just only 15 miles in between the airfields. The place we're just passing at the moment. Chevron San Ardo Water Treatment Facility. There you go, that's an interesting sightseeing expedition. And this appears to be some sort of crazy... I don't even know how you describe this. Sargent Canyon. So can anybody explain these pathways at Sargent Canyon? Is there something I'm missing here? The land is coming up to meet us though, so we're going to have to be a bit mindful of the height of the hills. But anybody know what's going on with all these pathways and the hills? Okay, so we can go into runway 13 at Paso Robles Municipal. Paso Roble, I guess it is. But we could, actually I've got it going into San Miguel Airport first, and we're going far too fast to make it.
Landing here.
Or maybe not. Almost missed an airport. So based on where we are, it's just behind the hill at the bend in the river. So if I come off the autopilot and we follow the bend in the river, that will give us some time to lose some speed and to give us a shallower approach in as well. Okay, first stage of flaps. And we can see the runway. It's the dark patch of asphalt even. So it's quite an easy approach. Gear down. Full flaps. what is going on with that? Suddenly the aircraft kicks sideways, alarmingly. Ian Harris says, evening John, evening Ian. We're flying over California, heading south towards Hollywood and then on towards the border with Mexico. So there's another guy in front of us who's following the same track. And you can see he's about to fly around to the side of us. It's going to loop round behind, I imagine. So, oh look, there's an aeroplane on the ground. I wonder how that came to be there. Perhaps it ran short on the way into that runway back there. So we're flying the King Air, which is a bit of a handful because it's so big and heavy and fast. But it's all good fun. Okay, the next airport we can already see the runway, I think. We're in line with it already. So I'm going to pull the engines back to 80%. So next airfield on our map is Paso Roble Municipal. The Field of Lights apparently is just south of it, and the Vina Roble Vineyards and Winery, Lowe's Home Improvement, all kinds of fun stuff. So what can we see out across the valley? Not much. It's all kind of farming land, isn't it? Vineyards and okay, let's get off the speed again.
Landing here. Landing here.
Okay, and I cut the engines a bit too much there. And we're going a bit fast to lose this speed. So what we're going to do is put left rudder and right wing down and watch the speed tumble. So if we lift the nose now as well, will it work in this aircraft? Yes, it will. Then the flaps down, gear down, full flaps, throttles to idle, and we come down in a hurry. Rotate, gear up, flaps up, and now we turn south. So next airfield is going to be Santa Margarita Ranch. $16 miles to run. Okay. Let's have a look around along the way, shall we? It's funny, isn't it? The natural position to sit in this aircraft is really low, and there's a huge instrument panel, because normally you'd be flying on instruments and using all the autopilot and everything. It's not much of a sightseeing airplane, really. There's not much of a view out either. Okay, pull back to 80% on the throttles. So this really is wine country, isn't it? But we're slowly snaking our way down towards Hollywood. So it's just down here. Let's keep an eye on the aeroplane. It's flying along, just trimmed out at the moment. Yeah, so we've got Santa Barbara, Camarillo, Whiteman, and then there's the Hollywood sign down here. So we've got 4 or 5 airfields to go, or a few more than that actually, before we get down there, and then we head down towards the border with Mexico. So, runway 17 at Santa Margarita Ranch Airport. The wind is getting up though, and it's starting to not favour us coming in from northerly landings. We may have to rethink that. So we're going to have to cross this ridge by the look of it. So we're just coming up to this ridge, and then we'll fall into another valley, and then we should see Santa Margarita just ahead of us, unless it's on this side of this ridge. Just looking at the map, is it in here with us? Looking for the airfield. Anybody see an airfield? No, it's too far away. This is the ridge we can see, I think, where Paloma Creek Park is. So it's over the top of this ridge before the next one. So is that still the Salinas River underneath us? Let's have a look. Doesn't appear on the map, does it? Highway 101, we're just passing over. Can we see any cars down there? Ah, yes. Evening traffic is making its way along. It's very cool, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, so we are over the top of the airfield, and we have missed it. It was hidden in the trees on the edge of town. Here it is here. So I'm going to do the same. Actually, I'm going to go around the other side because of the wind. So I'm going to fly over, cut the engines, and roll in. Land on runway 35. So we're going to do a right pattern to come in. Can't actually see it at the moment. I think it's directly below us. So we're flying the reciprocal of the runway heading now. First stage of flaps, and we're going to do a very unorthodox skim the hill approach. Oh, there's pylons as well. Wonderful. Gear down. Full flaps. And there's the runway. And again, there are trees on the runway line. How often does this happen? This is not the best way to land here, is it? It's quite a narrow runway as well. Okay, let's play dive over the trees and a very fast touch and go, and then run. Full throttle. And rotate. And gear up. And flaps up, and we survived. He says, famous last words, as the flaps retract and I start diving for the floor. Okay, next one is just over the ridge then. It's going to be... Whoa, where's the map gone? Where's my ice gone? San Luis County Regional, which is carry on about 180 degrees from here. Over the ridge we should see it pretty quickly. So we're coming up 2,500 feet. So that's just on the other side of this ridge. So let's get some height. Let's have a quick look at the map. So we're heading straight for the airport. Looking at the wind, we're going to go runway 11, so we're going to turn. And get rid of some speed now. If we just cut the throttle, the nose should fall anyway, and we'll start descending. Okay, so can we see the airfield down here? Where is the airfield? There it is. It's behind the engine. There it is. So we have visual. Hurrah! Just have to avoid this lump. Or hill, sorry. It's going to delete another spammer from the live feed chat. Okay, so this is San Luis County Regional, and we're just passing over San Luis Obispo. That's probably not how you pronounce it. I do apologise for anybody that lives there, that watches this at some point in the future.
Landing here.
There's the runway. And we're going to have the same problem with losing speed, so we are going to crab to get the flaps down, get the gear down and go to full flaps, and then go to idle, and hopefully that'll be enough to get us down. Oh look, they could put a pond in for us to land in if it all goes wrong.
500.
There's the car park. There's a lot of hangars here. Okay. Accelerate to 110. Rotate. Gear up. Wait for about 130 knots and raise flaps completely, and we're away again. Counter that with some elevator. This is all getting a bit routine, isn't it? Where does the next leg take us? Let's have a look. Oceano County, on the ocean. So we're going to come in runway 11 just so we see the sea, I guess. So we start turning right and we look for the sea. Should just be over here somewhere. And the runway should be just over on the coast somewhere, very nearby. So I think after doing this one, we'll have a bit of rest from the continual landings and shortcut straight. We'll go to altitude and fly the coast to the run into Hollywood. So we'll fly to Camarillo in one go. So you can see the runway. It's just down there. So we're cutting the engines. So rather than this madcap continual approach, you know, it's yeah, it's quite draining after a while. So I'm going to put it on autopilot in a few minutes to fly straight down the coast. So again, we need to lose some speed, so I'm crabbing the aircraft across the air, which has done it for us.
Landing here. Landing here.
And again, we need to come down in a hurry so we can crab the aircraft to do that. Most unconventional approach yet.
500.
And another tree directly in the flight path. Fantastic. Pull up! Gear up. Okay, let's get this sorted out then. So we want to fly. What direction do we want to fly? About 120 degrees. So let's get the heading mark around. We'll do that for the moment. And we want to get altitude. Let's go for 5,500. And autopilot on. Vertical speed to get there, about 1,000 feet a minute. Pull the throttles back to 80%. And let's move the heading then to about 120 degrees. So we're going to try and straight line it at least to Camarillo. So we're not going to be doing touch and goes at some of these coastal airfields, but we'll get some altitude, so at least we'll be able to see the ocean along the way. And meanwhile, I'm going to go and grab a coffee. Well, where should we leave the camera while we're flying along? It's the drone camera. If I plugged in the Xbox controller, I would have fine control over the drone camera, but I can't be bothered. Okay, let's just leave it straight lining it. So where are we on altitude? Okay, we're not climbing very fast, are we? This thing can probably go at 2,000 feet a minute. Let's go for 7,500 feet. Go for full throttle. Yeah, it can do that. Then we get to see the sea along the way. So the town we're just flying over is Santa Maria. I think each of those little houses has somebody living in it. Or maybe an entire family. It's absolutely crazy, isn't it? When you start thinking like that. And they've done this for the entire planet. They've used AI to read the maps, to use the overflown data, and they've assembled data at this level for the entire planet. Every car park in every car in every car park, every building, every road, every street lamp. It's absolutely insane. And on top of that, they modelled the weather. So this is the live weather that's happening right now over California. So we're heading towards the Hollywood Hills. And we're going the wrong direction. So we need to be going about 112 degrees. So let's just go and check that in the aircraft. 112. What wind do we have? Can we see it on the display? We can see it in this nav map. Okay, so we need more. We've got an 11 knot crosswind. So we'll add 5 degrees to that to counter the crosswind. And along the way, you can look out the window. I'm going to go and make a quick coffee. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Right, back. I have coffee. I'm not going to fall asleep. Just have a quick look. How are we doing? 235 knots indicated at 7,500 feet. Ground speed 267. Yeah, so for anyone who's never done anything like this, the higher you get in the sky, so the higher your altitude, the thinner the air, and the indicated airspeed works by using a pitot tube. I don't know where it is on there. The B350, you can usually see it quite obviously. Is it underneath? It'll be one of the sensors underneath, I imagine. Is that it there? Or yeah, it's probably one of those. So the indicated airspeed works by air pressure hitting the sensor. Obviously, if the air is thinner, there's less pressure on the sensor, so it shows a lower speed. So your indicated speed can be much lower than your ground speed. So there you can see your ground speed up there. 266 knots over the ground, which is 266 knots over the ground, which is 236 knots at 7,500 feet. The higher you get, the more marked the difference becomes. So once you're up in the kind of 36,000 feet range, 280 knots indicated can easily be 500 over the ground, or high 400s at least. Okay, there's a lot of buttons in this aeroplane, and unfortunately a lot of them don't work in the simulator. They're not simulated, even though they're here. They're not actually operable. So the the breakers for the various pieces of hardware. Some bits do work though. You know, like you can program. I haven't done that for the whole flight. That's a bit naughty. Luckily, it's only a tiny amount away from the standard setting, but you're supposed to configure the barometric pressure to match the local conditions. So if you don't do that, then altimeter again works by barometric pressure, the pressure in the air. That's how it knows how high above the sea you are. And the problem with that is barometric pressure varies from area to area because of all kinds of factors. You know, the weather basically. So yeah, on approach to an airfield in the real world, you would be inquiring about the barometric pressure reading on the ground, the QNH as they call it, and then configuring your altimeter to the number they tell you. So at the airfield you land at, you know there's a published height of the runway, and you know your exact height according to the calibration of your altimeter. So if you had low visibility, you wouldn't suddenly be surprised by seeing the ground coming at you. Okay, get rid of another spammer from the chat room. How are we doing on the map? So we're about halfway, just over halfway. And if we look out to the right, we can see some of the ocean whizzing by. Okay, can we go down inside the aircraft? No, we can't. Oh, that's a shame. I wonder if any of the other views will give us a view around inside the aeroplane. We're just going to spin around some of the pre-configured views and see what they do. Yeah, they're not great. It's easier just for us to wander around. Move the camera. So off our left wing over there, so right wing, there is Santa Barbara we're just passing. If you watched my video a few days ago, you will have seen me tooling around at Santa Barbara Airfield. in a variety of different aeroplanes. Okay, so we are approaching the Hollywood Hills, and there's a fair amount of mist down there. It's going to be interesting to fly through. We need to adjust our course slightly, so 5 degrees to the right. Autopilot is reacting to that. And let's pull the throttle back a little bit. So even though we are at 7,500 feet, look, we're only just clearing these hills, and you can see if we were to put our track out here, you would see that would be almost up to us, the heights of the peaks. You can see that plainly by comparing the reference of the wing and the engine to the hilltops. Over there is higher than us. Okay, so bearing in mind we're going to come into Camarillo, we'll descend down over the beach over here, so let's go 130 degrees and set a target altitude of 2,000 feet or 1,500 feet even. And vertical speed will come down at 1,000 feet a minute for the moment. We'll come down more steeply if we need to, and we'll cut the engines back to 50%. How are we looking on the heading? It's probably going to be okay, isn't it? I think we can come down a bit more steeply than that. So 2,000 feet a minute. And we'll see how we go. Melly Mel, is he good? I'm flying the aeroplane somewhat properly, if that's what you mean. I'm not doing crazy aerobatics or crashing it anyway. So it strikes me this is absolute sod's law, isn't it? Look at the weather. And we're heading towards the Hollywood Hills. We're hoping to go and see the Hollywood sign, and there's low cloud across the whole of LA by the look of it. Okay, how are we doing? Down to 2,500 feet. Let's lessen that descent rate then to 1,000 feet a minute now. So we're looking for Camarillo. Let's get sorted out. Off the autopilot. Keep an eye on the altitude, I don't want to get too low. Stay at 1500 feet until we descend. Camarillo is about 10 miles out. Coming in quite quickly, but we can lose speed quite quickly as well.
Landing here.
Just pulled the throttles back just too far. Okay, so if we hold the aircraft at about 160 knots or so, we can easily drop the flaps then at a moment's notice and lose the rest of our speed. It's a shame there's so much mist. They're just above 1,000 feet. Just turning right slightly to line up for the runway. Start looking for it in the mist. Is this the airfield out over here that we can see, or is that a different one? Not quite sure what I'm looking for at the moment. Or is that the runway there? Or is that a main road? Let's have a look at the GPS. Okay, it's directly in front of us. So we can see some lights out there. Is that the airfield? Possibly. Okay, so we're flying over the top of, what's this part of the city called? I was going to say Costco, it's River Park, isn't it? And Rio Lindo. So, you see the airfield here now? First stage of flaps. Just sitting straight in the seat so we can see what we're doing. Gear down. You should see that happen if you want. So just missed it happening. Apologise for that. Full flaps. I think we should be able to see the Hollywood sign. There's a lot of mist, but it's not very thick mist. It's not much wind either, it's very, very slight. This runway's bigger than it looks. You could easily land an airliner here.
500.
Okay, accelerate. Rotate. Gear up. Climb out. Flaps up. And we're away. Okay, next on our trip, we're going to fly across to Whiteman, KWHP, Kilo Whiskey Hotel Papa. So we're coming up to 1,500 feet. Let's just level out, slow down a bit, do some sightseeing now. It's a shame it's so misty. Okay, I'm going to change the weather because the mist, okay, it's pretty, but it doesn't help you with seeing sights in the sky. So we'll just put a few clouds out so it looks pretty. Then you get to see the sights properly. So the lights behind me are probably still Lee, I imagine. It's a good job actually, good point. I need to go and check how much fuel we've got left. If the engines suddenly go quiet, you know we've run out of fuel. Okay, so we're passing over Newbury Park at the moment, and then Canelo Creek. So let's go and have a look outside. So out of the right wing is Newbury Park. Probably, I imagine they're all affluent neighbourhoods, this part of the world, because just the other side of those hills is the Hollywood sign. Let's just trim the plane out so I don't have to hold the stick all the time, which I've just done. So yeah, let's have a look. California Lutheran University, sorry, is just to our side down here somewhere. So if we go and can we get in the window to see things? Yeah, it's difficult with the hills to equate it to the map, isn't it? Obviously once we get around to the Hollywood sign it'll be very obvious, and then we can fly towards LA and have a good look around. So the Hollywood sign is on the hill over here, obviously facing LA. So we're flying towards Whiteman, KWHP. Rancho Madera Community Park is coming up on our left. One house ends up looking much like another, doesn't it? And we're heading over the hills. If we turn left, we'll be going into the Simi Valley. I'm probably pronouncing all these place names horrendously incorrectly. Just looking for see if there's any famous places along the way. Hillside Middle School we're about to fly over the top of almost. It's down here, so if we go to the outside view we'll be able to see it, and I imagine that's it there with the running track. Just leave. So we're going towards Simi Valley High School. Should be just to the right of our path. Used to be a shopping mall down there with parking out front. It does look remarkably real sometimes, doesn't it? It's worth pointing out this, the reason it's starting to look a lot more real is because this has been an area of interest that's been mapped in higher detail. So you can see, look, the rock formations, for example, are much higher resolution. And the vector map underneath, you know, the textures are applied to is much, much higher resolution than normal. You can see it here, look. So this has been mapped in much greater depth. So it does look very, very real. Okay, we're about to fly straight over the top of California State University, Northridge. So that will be the huge collection of buildings beneath us. So let's go and cut the throttle and start descending a little bit. Another spammer to remove from the chat room. Remove. So yeah, you get some idea. Look, when they do the photogrammetry, it's identical to the real buildings. It's not AI, it's the actual buildings. And it suddenly looks like a photograph. Okay, let's have a look on the map then, make sure where we are with Whiteman. So we're going to start turning left to do the left pattern into the base leg at Whiteman. So we're at 2,000 feet, we'll drop down to, actually what altitude above sea level is Whiteman? So right click on it, show information for Whiteman. 981 feet, so we want to be at 2,000 feet basically, to be 1,000 feet over the ground. Yeah, so we are at 1,000 feet over the ground at the moment, which is perfect. And we'll try and get a visual on it before we get there. So we're almost going to double back on ourselves to go into, was it runway 30? I can't quite see it on the map. Yeah, runway 30. Once we've done our touch and go at Whiteman, we'll go and have a look at the Hollywood sign. So we're staying at about 150 knots, which is fine. We've come back up to 1500 feet above the ground, which is also fine. So Whiteman should be out there somewhere. It can sometimes be difficult. Oh, there it is. There's the control tower, there's the runway. And there's my accomplice in this escapade. Okay. Flaps down. Gear down. Full flaps. Move the mouse out of the way. Up, gear up. Obviously we would come in a lot slower if we weren't going to take off again. Flaps up. And let's go find the Hollywood sign. So we want to double back and go 137, 140 degrees basically. Terrify the residents of Hollywood as we go barnstorming around this corner. So 50% on the engines should be fine. And we make our way towards the Hollywood sign. Just remembering that the ground is at 1,000 feet above sea level, we're at 2,000 feet, therefore we are at 1,000 feet in the air. So the Hollywood sign must be on the other side of the hill that we can see directly ahead of us out there. So to get a good look at it, what we'll do is turn right and we'll circle the hill. We'll go along the off side of the hill from the direction we're approaching. I guess once we've seen the Hollywood sign, if we want to head into LA, do we follow? No, the Los Angeles River goes that way. Now, which is the waterway that was dry when they filmed Grease. We could find it, couldn't we? We'll have to do a little bit of research while we're flying that direction, and we'll go find it. It's the same place that they landed the shuttle in Armageddon, isn't it? I'm not quite sure what part of the city it was. Whether it was up here or I'm not sure. We'll have a look. Okay, so we're going to turn towards the Hollywood sign now. So we're approaching the famous sign. So you can see the buildings of downtown LA. We'll go and circle those as well and have a good look at them. Here it comes. Okay. Shall we go and see downtown Los Angeles? It's probably enough excitement for a few minutes, isn't it? And while we're on our way to downtown Los Angeles, let's have a quick look and see, type into the mighty Google, where was Grease car race filmed? The Los Angeles River on the east side of downtown LA, which is what I kind of guessed. So if we go and look at the map, got downtown LA here. So this is the Los Angeles River. So it was over here. So we'll go visit it and see how much water's in it. But we'll circle the city first. This is Los Angeles. So when they did the photogrammetry for America, they seem to have very muddy textures for a lot of the buildings, and they haven't got custom 3D assets for them. So you get this, yeah, this odd-looking reflection at the time the photo was taken, which looks really poor, which is a shame. And it makes it look like it's post-Holocaust kind of textures on the buildings. Whereas the better cities have got custom 3D assets for the buildings. So anybody that knows LA will probably be able to recognise all the buildings and tell us which one's which. Obviously if you get close to some of them you'll be able to read the signs on them. Like the Wells Fargo building there. Okay, so if we head over here, we should find the river, and we can see where they filmed Grease. So we need to turn follow the freeway. So yeah, you can see it ahead of us now. And along here. So this is where they filmed Grease many, many years ago. Of course, what they don't tell you in any of the rose-tinted views of when they filmed it is most of the cast and crew became incredibly sick. Because this water has got just about everything in it. So yeah, everybody involved in that shoot of the car race got really badly ill. Okay, shall we get back on with the rest of our journey now? So we'll skip Santa Monica and Santorini. We want to go on towards Mexico really, don't we? If we jump straight down to Ramona and fly straight over the... I should really look where I'm going, shouldn't I? There's a lot of buildings around. I've gone straight over the top of the city. Okay, so at this point we leave LA behind. We open the engines. And we start accelerating. 180 knots, 190 knots, 200 knots, and we're naturally climbing on the trim the aircraft has at the moment. So we're climbing back out to the southwest at the moment. We're going to set a direction, I guess, to carry on straight down to Now, which way do we do? We could follow the runways, couldn't we? It's not going to hurt. Down to Zamperini Field then. So we keep following this direction. Trim the plane out. Cut the engines back a little bit. Go for heading mode, go for altitude hold mode. And engage autopilot. So now we're heading down towards Zamperini Field. Say goodbye to Los Angeles. Should we go back to real weather now? Now we've seen what we came here to see. And give it a chance to load. What's the real weather? Watch the mist build up. They may have even burnt off with the sun by now, to be honest. Yeah, there's little or no weather about now. So we had all that mist on the way in. Then the time we were flying round, the sun burnt it off. Maybe it was only out on the headlands. So the big airfield we are just passing by is Los Angeles International, KLAX. Kilo Lima Alpha X-ray. And you can see there's some big traffic. Oh no, somebody doing aerobatics apparently over the end of the runway. Sometimes you see big jets going in and out of the international airports. Okay, so we can see the airfield ahead of us. Which way we're going for the wind? There's only a 2-knot crosswind, so we can pick any runway really. Okay, off of the autopilot. Zamperini.
Landing here.
So we will scrub a lot of speed as we turn towards the runway, so there's no real panic about slowing down. Okay, first stage of flaps. And gear down. Second stage of flaps, and we roll in. Slightly off the centre line, just correct for that before we settle. Or not. Seems to be those gusting crosswinds here. Straighten up, accelerate, rotate, gear up. Flaps up. Okay. Which direction next? 65 degrees to Fullerton Municipal.
500.
So we'll just come back towards the track. Trim the elevators out, and we're good to go. Shipyards. You can still see LA out in the distance. Drop down to 1,000 feet. We're going to fly straight over the top of Long Beach. There's the famous Long Beach where the IndyCar races and the Formula One races happened in the past. Here's the airport. We're flying straight over it. This is completely breaking all the aviation laws, but you know, it's a simulator. At the end of the day, we're simulating breaking the aviation laws. Ooh, interesting pyramid over there. Probably a casino, I imagine. Interesting park as well, in the middle of the city. So what's that called? Hartwell Park. Just going over Memorial Stadium, which is down there for the baseball ground, I guess, and the football ground. And we are on our way to Fullerton Municipal. 3 knots wind says nothing. Okay, so we cut the engines again. Let's get back inside, see where we're going. Take the autopilot off. I think we can see the runway over there. It's looking good. So, Katie's Aura is asking, is it the Brazil update patch this week? That's a really good question.
Landing here.
I know there is an update coming. I'm not sure what area of the world it updates. So, to get rid of some height. So I'm just going to wrestle the aeroplane into losing us some height and speed at the same time. Not to be recommended with passengers on board because they'll probably throw up at the moment you do it. Or you wouldn't lurch into it at the speed I did it, to be honest. What is that drawn across the runway? Okay, it's a graphical aberration that has now been corrected. There's a bit of a side wind, only a little bit, but enough to notice. Okay. On to the next airfield, which is Corona Municipal. So we just passed through in between the hills to Corona Municipal. So we can see the gap between the hills ahead of us. Cut the engine back, coming up to the same altitude as normal. Way. Forgot to center the heading before I engaged heading mode that time, and it's done it again. Interesting. Time for another sip of coffee. Katie saying, did I come in too fast? Yes, I did. I wasn't planning ahead. I wasn't really paying attention. It was too fast, too high, so I had to put in some rudder and aileron input to side slip the plane to lose some speed and height in a hurry, and to get it into the realm of airspeed where I could drop the flaps quickly. But luckily in the King Air you can do that. You can almost wrestle it through the air, and it's very forgiving. How are we doing? Okay, so we're going to come in. I'm just looking at the wind. If that wind increases in speed, I mean, this plane should be fine. I mean, technically I guess we should fly the left circuit or something. A few knots isn't going to really hurt this plane, and we're only doing a touch and go. But if we were doing a full stop, I might consider doing a left circuit at Corona and coming in the other side. Let's see what the wind does when we're the other side of the hill. Aerostar, you're in my neighbourhood. That's a real neat airport straight up ahead on top of the mountain at Big Bear Lake. Let's have a look on the map. Okay, I'm not quite sure, unless you mean way in the distance. Let's concentrate on where we're going for the moment. So yeah, we can see the airport ahead of us. I'm inclined to do the left circuit just for safety reasons, really. I mean, we could wrestle it in like we did at the last airfield, but it's not to be advised. So we're going to do the left circuit to come in along the highway. Okay, that's not an airfield. Well, not as I've ever seen one, but you can see the runway is on the other side, but that's some very strange markings, isn't it? So, first level of flaps. Gear down. Second level of flaps. Gear up. Okay, we have to look for this big bear. I can't see an airport marked. Usually Flight Sim's very good at marking grass strips. You do mean over there? There's an airstrip on that ridge line, potentially. L35. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, it's quite a long way over from us. It's probably about 70 miles away. So our next heading is Perris Valley. So we're going to turn right. So there's a quarry we're about to fly over. So 101 degrees to Perris Valley. Let's go inside and we can keep an eye on the compass from inside. So we're approaching Perris Valley and looking at the wind, we'll probably go runway 33. Although we could get away with either, to be honest.
Landing here.
It's very cool scenery out here. Have to remember this. Another aeroplane out ahead of us. Another GA plane. Probably probably doing a similar thing off Sightseeing. So we're just making our way around to get a nice approach into Paris Valley Airport. So I think that's the airstrip there. It's only a short one, so we're going to have to be careful. Watch out for skydivers. Up. Flaps up. And we're away. Next leg, 147 degrees to French Valley. Aerostar saying this is making me want to start flying Microsoft Flight Simulator. Yeah, when you get nice weather on a nice day in Flight Sim, it's pretty cool. So what is this feature up ahead? Is that... Is that the airfield? I think it might be. If it is, that's an awful lot of hangars, and that's a very long runway. Should we just look on the map? Oh my word, they've got a 6,000 foot runway at French Valley. I wonder what the cause is of that. I wonder what's based there. Why would they have such a big airfield? Okay, flaps. Yeah. Gear up, flaps up, and we're off again. Whoa, forgot to put the elevator input in. I was busy reading the live chat. It said if you're running live weather, be prepared for strong winds today. It's not that bad actually. I've got live weather on, and it's only a few knots in the, although we're behind the mountains, so we're going to climb up now though to Palmer Valley Air Park, 2,700 feet in the air, so right up in the hills up here. So we're going to follow a track of 146 degrees. We might have to fly around it and have a look at it, and there's going to be some mist up here by the look of it, but by the time we get here, by the time we get there, sorry, it'll probably be fine. Okay, so we're coming over the top of these hills, get a look at the airfield, circle it and come in. How are we doing on our journey map? Let's have a look. So we've started working our way down after visiting Los Angeles. So we're getting towards the end of our journey. A few more airfields and we'll be on the edge of Mexico. Time to pick up some beer. So let's think in terms of the wind. It's going to be a crosswind then, so we could choose either direction. Looking at this, there's more room to turn in for runway 29. But if we come into the valley, come in for runway 11, if we twist around, maybe. So we'll come over these hills, fall into a valley, follow the road, then scoot round onto runway 11. That looks like as good a plan as any. So we should come onto this map anytime soon, which is good. Cut the engine back. We'll do this nice and slowly. Well, that's the plan anyway. Yeah, we're appeared on the map now, so we're going to descend into this flat area, round the side of this hill, and then we should get visual on the runway pretty quickly. Just looking behind me. So Katie is somewhere behind me in the TBM. So we're just losing speed slowly. Preparing to land at Palmer Valley Air Park. So we're going to fly around the edge of the hill. Keep it just on the flap limit so we can easily deploy the flaps when we need to. And let's just get rid of that spammer from the chat. Remove. And remove that one from earlier. Remove. First stage of flaps. And gear. Throttles to idle. And we're looking for the airstrip, which I presume is this in the trees here. Or not. This is it, isn't it? Okay, get the mouse out of the way. Where's that? Oh my word, it's in front of us. Okay, so which is which? There are two airstrips. Which one do I want? The one I'm flying over. Okay, let's go round. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you land at the wrong airstrip.
500.
So we're just going to fly the reciprocal direction for a few moments, back to the hill and come back in. So if we look out of the left wing now, we should see the airstrip. It's just over there. Just out of view. Fly towards the hill as close as we dare. Well, this is an eventful one, isn't it? And it's quite a skinny airstrip as well, to be quite accurate. Up. Okay. Yeah, that was a bit of a kamikaze approach, I will admit that. Wasn't very well planned. Didn't help, I was trying to do two things at once on the desk. So I looked away from the screen for a moment. Of course, the aeroplane was in the middle of
500.
yawing quite dramatically with the torque of the engines increasing. So it was fine in the end. Okay, let's have a look from outside at some of this scenery. What's going on with this blue line? Presumably that's a waterway that the simulator has got really badly wrong. Or no, it's mist that it's got wrong. Let's look where we're going, otherwise we're going to run into the ground. So we have another dangerous landing coming up, so I'll try and plan this one a little bit better and come in a little bit slower and a little bit more planned. So which way's the wind? 4 knots. And we're just coming down to Ramona. So we're looking for runway 27 at Ramona.
500.
So we'll start turning left now to give us a nice approach. Is that Katie in your 6? Let's look behind us. Can we see some nav lights? So I'm looking for her. I can't see any nav lights around at the moment. Can't see her. Okay, so there's the airfield. Let's go and prepare our approach. Flaps down. Gear down. Full flaps. Far too fast. We're still going far too fast. a long runway though, so we can get away with it. I thought we were losing more speed than that around the corner, but oh well. We'll just bleed it off on the runway. I don't believe we actually touched that time.
Landing here. Landing here.
That was quite amusing. Tell you what, just to make sure we can say we touched everywhere.
Landing here. Landing here. Landing here. 500.
Let's go and fly the reciprocal. I'll go and put this down on the ground. Coming at a sensible speed this time. And this is how the idiots used to do it with landing rate monitor, to try and get the 1 knot a minute, the 1 foot a minute landing rate. I'll show you how they did it. It's ridiculous. You just come in near stall speed, and you just keep winching the nose up and up and up as you get within inches of the runway. So you come in with a few knots left. And that's how the idiots with landing rate monitor used to do it. And that's why virtual airlines ban most landings under 100 feet a minute, to stop people doing that sort of stupidity. Okay. Next direction for us is 182 degrees. I'm forgetting what simulator I'm in. That was a bit of DCS there. Okay, through the hills to the next runway. Let's have a quick look at the map. Gillespie Field. Now, is it a short runway? No, it's not. It's a major airport, so we'll come in runway 27 right. So we shouldn't have any problems with that one at all. Do I have damage enabled? Yes, I do actually. But yeah, you can throw. I wasn't going very fast when I pulled back hard back then. You're only risking the airframe if you do it at speed. At slow speeds, you can get away with it. I mean, you can hear it complaining a little bit, but I'm never overspeeding, and I'm never doing extreme maneuvers at speed, if that makes sense. So Gillespie Field Shouldn't be far away. Oh, I have a master caution. Why? Low fuel. Oh! Interesting. So how do we get the fuel display on the main screen? I am not a master of this system. I presume it's underneath here and I can't easily get to it. Because you can't use the down arrow to sit down anymore in the no, that doesn't tell me fuel either. It is a bit mad that this screen doesn't give you an instant look at your fuel level. And it's not over there either. Anyway, I'm not concentrating. Where are we going? Gillespie Field. We were going to go for runway 27, weren't we? Let's get rid of the master caution. Gillespie is difficult. What makes it difficult? So there it is. Just the proximity of the hill, I guess, makes it difficult. Look at that crosswind. Whoa. Okay, so the wind has arrived. Oh, we have an engine fire. I'm going to go into the houses. Rather than have a fiery explosion, I'm going to cheat slightly and we're going to go back and refuel. Well, I presume if that's an engine fire then I've had it, but we'll find out actually. If I give myself some gliding room, we're going to go dead stick. Okay, I wonder if the hydraulics run out on this plane. So flaps up. So which engine is it? Is it both? Okay, so the fire warning's gone out. What on earth? Oh, of course we hit slew. But we've got no engines.
Landing gear. Landing gear.
And we've got no oil pressure. So we are essentially dead stick.
Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear. Landing gear.
So I guess now we're on the ground, we can go and put some fuel in it. I was down to 3%, but I had an engine fire. That's bizarre. Obviously slew put the engine fire out, because otherwise I would have gone in the ground and that would have been flight over. Okay. Put the parking brake on. And that's looking happier. Gear up. Flaps up. And we can carry on our way. After the unscheduled magical recovery via slough that gave us some altitude to dead stick with no engines instead of crashing into a village. I've never had a fire. Okay, I was down to about 4% fuel at the time it happened. I've never had an engine fire before. That's interesting. Oh, we were one stop short of the end of our flight as well. Interesting. So this is coming up to the final the final airfield. Right on the border with Mexico. It's Brown Field Municipal. So technically we didn't make it. We got to Gillespie and we had an engine fire. With the magic of slough, we did a dead stick into Gillespie Field. Brown Field, let's have a close look at it. So 26 right, we'll come in over the town and then we'll go and park up and have that beer. So I wonder if you can see Trump's wall. Trump's non-existent cash-sucking wall. Most of the money of which went to pay off his various other debts, I imagine. I guess I must have failures enabled, but I've never noticed a failure before, nothing that drastic. It was suddenly on full power with low fuel, admittedly. So I thought we were going to make it because I had a few percent left. And it's only a few miles, look, to the next airfield. On full power climb out of Gillespie, suddenly the engine firelight came on and the power died. Lost pressure. And it was unrecoverable because I was just on climb out over the houses. I had no way to turn back. Didn't have airspeed. So I just hit slough, gave myself a few thousand feet, and then dead sticked back into Gillespie. I didn't lose hydraulics. So whether the propeller's spinning, I'm not sure how it works, or even if it's modelled properly in flight sim in the stock aircraft. I have had engine failure in the A320, the fly-by-wire A320, and I slowly lost hydraulic power and barely made it to the runway. I was about 4 miles out when I lost the engines, and then of course that lost the pump's pressure, and I immediately went to I lifted the flaps and got them almost all the way up, and then I had nothing. I was going to try and raise the undercarriage to kind of glide, and I'd run out of power by the time I'd lifted the flaps, but I just had enough for the control surfaces, but I just about ran out of elevator over the runway. It was probably the scariest thing ever. Okay, so we're just approaching our final airfield, so we're going to scoot round and do a left circuit in. We're not going to go in 27, we'll go in to runway 9. But yeah, I guess I must have failures enabled. So we'll just give ourselves a mile or so to come in properly this time for the final landing and do a half decent job of it for a change. And there we go, that's the end of our journey on the border with Mexico. Double back slightly. Roland Gardner saying greetings this morning from a hot summer day in Australia on Australia Day. Greetings. Greetings from an Englishman who just survived a near plane crash at magicked himself from a plane crash at Gillespie Field. I had an engine fire and used slew to give myself several thousand feet and then went dead stick into Gillespie Field. And we've just landed down at Brown on the border with Mexico after flying all the way down from where did we start earlier? The San Francisco Bay. We left Buchanan Field on the San Francisco Bay earlier today and have flown all the way down to the coast of Mexico. So we're just going to go and park up and relax. So the entire flight should be available to watch in a few minutes. As soon as I park up and stop the stream, it should magically reappear on YouTube with the whole thing, with about 30 touch and goes at different airfields along the way. We went and did a tour of Los Angeles. We flew past the Hollywood sign a couple of times. Yeah, we went and flew along the river in Los Angeles where they filmed Grease and where they filmed obviously Armageddon as well with the shuttle landing. Right, where should we park? Oh, is he wanting us to park there? Whoops, my bad. Excellent. Okay. Engine condition. Starve the engine of fuel. Let's pull the pitch back. Shut the warning up. Okay, so we shut off the igniters and then we go and turn off master power to everything. Oops, wrong button. Where is the avionics? Power is off. Oh yeah, generators and battery. And there we go. And dead as the door now. Okay, so that's it. We survived. With a little bit of help from Slew in our darkest hour. But other than that, we did about, yeah, however many. Let's have a look at the route, because the whole route will now be on. Let's go backwards through it. So Brownfield, Gillespie Field. I can't remember the name of that one. Lyle Roberts, French Valley. Why does it not? Can we get the flight plan to reset the route? Oh, you have to do it on the route here, don't you? So there were, yeah, 32 airfields. Activate flight, there you go. Paris Valley, Corona Municipal, Fullerton Muni, Zamperini Field. We can see there we went and toured Los Angeles. We flew around the Hollywood sign, Whiteman, Camarillo. We didn't follow this part of the flight plan. We went straight lined it across the hills while I went and fetched a coffee. Oceano County, San Luis County Regional, Santa Margarita Ranch Airport, Paso Roble Municipal, San Miguel Airport, San Ardo, Mesa del Rey, Clark Ranch. It just goes on and on, doesn't it? Salinas Municipal, Monterey Regional, Watsonville Municipal, Reed Hill View of Santa Clara, and we're getting there. Hayward Executive. We did a scoot around San Francisco, having a look at the buildings, and then we took off from Buchanan Field. It's been an epic journey. So what comments have we got here? Nice plane, nice flying, enjoyed the show, thanks for sharing. Oh, you're welcome. It gives me more reason to fly than flying on my own, or sometimes to do group flights with other people. You know, we just go out and have fun, but it's actually good fun to go and do live streams, and it encourages me to do things a little bit more properly. If I know someone's watching, then, you know, I better do it right. Obviously we're not following proper procedures because it's just a simulator, and it'd be very boring for people to watch me trundle out by a couple of miles to come in for an approach and set the plane up properly, but it's good fun. Okay, anyway, that's it. That's me for today, and I'll say goodbye now. So I just pull up OBS.